You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast. It's the big week. It's the week we've all been waiting for. It's the final Test match of Jimmy Anderson's career. This is, of course, England v West Indies, taking place at Lord's in just a couple of days' time. And Ross and I are here to go over it with you all and give our predictions, what's going to happen, have a little look ahead now that England have named their 11 and see what we think is going to, well, what's going to happen, what's going to occur, what's Jimmy Anderson going to do in his final Test match. So, Ross, you are here with me. As I said, how are you doing on this slightly damp, as always, Monday evening in the UK?
I'm okay. The way in which you kind of said we've been looking forward to this moment. I'm devastated that Jimmy Anderson's leaving the scene. Like it's going to be really weird. Like all I've known is cricket with Jimmy Anderson. I've not known cricket without Jimmy Anderson. So it's going to be a pretty strange affair after the Lord's Test match. But he's kind of got to pick like how he goes out. I know that kind of Stokes and Rob Key are kind of going, we've got to nudge him and all this kind of stuff. But ultimately, there's worse places to play your final game of cricket, isn't there?
Yeah, if you could get your name etched up on the honours board in your final Test match with a sterling century, your first century of your career, that would be a nice way to go out, wouldn't it? No, you're right. Yeah, not so much looking forward to it as anticipating it, I suppose.
I think that's fair.
Word. Well, I'm sure it'll be a big send off as well. There'll be lots of chatter, lots of nice sentiments, and some guards of honor and all the rest of it. We'll get ahead to that. But before we see Jimmy Anderson swinging balls around corners, as is his wont, if you like to swing your balls around, then you need to head over to Manscaped because they have to look good when you swing them around. And Manscaped will help you do just that with their range of excellent products. The Lawnmower 5.0, the ball deodorant, the ball toner. Or if you don't want to just swing your balls around, you want to swing your face around, there's the beard hedger for the beard trimming. Everything you could ask for, even boxers. It's good stuff. Head over to manscaped.com, 20% off and free shipping with the code CricketPod. Okay, advertising duties out of the way.
Shall I start with a fun story about my cricketing
like
exploits this weekend, Max?
Yeah, I like a story.
So, a lot of you will know that Max, Jack, and I all play cricket, and we'd say we're not that good. We're reasonable cricketers, but I would say we're kind of average in the world. I don't normally bowl, Max. I'm normally wicketkeeper, opening batsman over the last couple of years. I was playing for my brother's team, and I was given the honour of bowling kind of 7 overs on Saturday, and I was given to close the game out. They needed kind of 20 runs off of the last. Well, they had 7 overs to get it, but they only had 2 wickets in hand. I came on, and I've gone for 2 runs, and then I've taken a wicket with my final ball of the over. Right, guys caught it on the boundary, and as he celebrated, he's ran backwards 6 paces and took it over the boundary and went for 6 in the game.
What?
He literally caught it, and we were all just like, "Yes, Wally, this is amazing!" And genuinely, he just starts walking backwards, and their players are on the boundary going, "By the way, lads, he's just stepped miles over the boundary." And none of us could turn around and be like, "No, he hasn't," because literally, when he looked at him, he's just over the boundary, and you're sitting there just like, "Oh my goodness!" It was just one of those brain fades, and it took from me a potential kind of winning kind of thing, but shit happens.
A potential new career as a death bowler dashed by stupidity.
Yeah, so
it just reminds me of Ben Stokes at slip against Australia when he caught the ball and then celebrated and threw it up in the air and was like, "Oh." You could see the look on his face as he realised that he'd just randomly thrown the ball away and he hadn't actually caught it.
And then they reviewed it.
Yes.
Anyway, back
of cricket, of course.
Back to proper boys' cricket and men's cricket and all things cricket. For this, Max, it's a pretty big occasion. Last time West Indies were in town, it was COVID, and those Test matches kind of, from a financial perspective, helped the ECB to meet their Sky TV obligations. Obviously, didn't quite fulfill the. I think they're estimated to lose £100 million over COVID. ECB, but the West Indies pretty much did ECB a favour, is the way I saw it. The conditions weren't very good. They were pretty much locked up in their hotel rooms, and people kind of be like, "Oh, well, they're staying in hotels. It must be really nice." Like COVID was shit, and it was probably really, really shit for the cricketers who were there as well. So it's great that they have got Test matches in England. I wish it would be more than 3, but it starts at Lords on Wednesday. And Max, you're right. The West Indies element of it was probably going to be overshadowed by the Jimmy Anderson fanfare. But I think there's quite a lot to be happy about if you're this West Indies team. They've got a pretty good holiday out of it. There's they were at Buckingham Palace.
Great over here at the moment.
They were at Buckingham Palace earlier.
Really?
The West Indies met King Charles, and the big headlines are that he's learnt a new handshake, which is obviously very, very important. And we're going to see some familiar faces coming back. So after their tremendous victory on one of the Test matches against Australia, with Shamar Joseph kind of had brilliance, I think, after getting, was it crunched on the toe by one of the Yorkers? He's in the zone, and Jason Holder is kind of out of self-inflicted retirement. He chose to play in the UAE League instead of going to Australia, and said that actually the Shamar Joseph heroics kind of ignited something in him. So this is something to look forward to, I think, this Test series.
Yeah, and Jason Holder has quite a good record against England, I'd say. I mean, he's got quite a good record in Test cricket, really, wasn't he? He was the number 1 all-rounder in the world for quite a long time. So he's no slouch and has been the nemesis of England many, many times. But it's nice to hear Jason Holder saying things like that, because I think we all felt it, didn't we, when we saw Shamar Joseph come into the West Indies side from literally nowhere, from lumberjacking and security guarding to getting Steve Smith in his first attempt at playing Test cricket. Not bad. And it did sort of bring a bit of joy, didn't it? Mainly because it was against Australia, but also because it was someone completely unheralded and he was bowling really well, and it was just raw talent and something that's always nice to see. And if that's ignited something in Jason Holder as well, hopefully it will have done the same for a lot of other West Indian cricketers, and herald a new dawn for the Test side, because obviously that's where the struggles have been for the West Indies, hasn't it, in recent times? T20, they're always a force. There's a lot of experience from T20 leagues across the world. We know all about that, but the Test side, and again, it's all financial, isn't it? Like there's no money in it. You just told me before we recorded how much money the West Indies made out of their tour in Australia.
Yeah, I think they lost $2 million based on what I was reading earlier.
So not helpful. So maybe
it's just completely unsustainable, isn't it? There's nothing in the world where you just like, we lose $2 million when we go and tour that country. Like, just why would you bother going? And it all of a sudden becomes a bit of a closed shop. And like cricket, and it feels every single time we get to the Test summer in England, Max, we kind of talk about the future of Test cricket. It kind of always feels like it's on the precipice. And in this regard, like, you can't just have India, England, and Australia just hoovering up all the money. It just can't work like that, because the product will ultimately become boring. If every single Test series was England, Australia, England, India, or India, and you just had that triumvirate playing each other,
even Bazball can't save that.
Yeah, it's going to be really quite dreadful, and you're going to end up like having to listen to people like Tim Payne on commentary an awful lot, and it's just not worth it. There's more to life, unfortunately. But Max, West Indies, I think they are going to have a reasonable chance. I think England's record at Lords isn't actually that good, and I think if there's a place to play us first, it's certainly at Lords. Shamar Joseph has landed, so we know that Hurricane Beryl has devastated the West Indies, and we hope everyone's going to be okay off the back of that, but it's a pretty awful situation. But Shamar Joseph is in London. He's trained. There is a question mark over kind of match fitness. It's kind of one of those things, but Shamar Joseph is kind of a bit of a rare talent, Max, and I think there'd be a lot to leave him out of the starting 11 would be my thought on that.
Yeah, chuck him in. Get him in there. Joseph Seals, Joseph.
Yeah, two Josephs. Yeah.
Two Josephs. Yeah, and then obviously Jason Holder as well, and then probably a spinner. I think you got to play him, and you it's the future of West Indies cricket, and in his fledgling career, he's been excellent. So if he's here and he's vaguely fit, chuck him in. Why not? He can play with a broken foot, so I'm sure he can play if he's got a bit of jet lag. Fine.
Yeah, I was listening to what some of the West Indies, the Caribbean Cricket podcast, were saying around some of their players, and they reckon Sinclair's likely to play kind of in that role, and then Brathwaite will be opened up with Mikhail Louis, who will be in that space. So there's going to be some names. It's a young team, this West Indies team. There's not loads of experience in there, and I think they benefit from having Holder back in that side to give them that bit of experience. Yeah.
There are some. I mean, there are some unfamiliar names in that squad. To the casual observer, quite a few. But everyone has to start somewhere, right? So I mean, who'd heard of Shamar Joseph until 6 months ago? And look at him. So every chance that someone comes out and makes a force of themselves, but. I guess, Ross, it's the elephant in the room for West Indies, and this West Indies side is the same as it's always been, right? Their bowling it's good. It's a good bowling attack. They've got pace with Alzari Joseph. They've got the excitement of Shamar Joseph. Jaden Seals is a good player if he plays. And then, someone like Gudakesh Otier, who's come in his sort of, fairly late to Test cricket, but he's been effective as well. They've got decent options. Obviously, Jason Holder as well as the all-rounder option, but the batting has always been an issue.
Well, are we going to see anything different? It hasn't always been an issue, but it's been an issue in kind of recent
in the last 15 years, maybe.
So I think it's going to be a real struggle. I think that West Indies always seem to put in a good performance against England, which is a good place. Unfortunately, in this place, if you look at England's playing 11, and they've announced it 2 days before the Test match starts.
Standards, yeah.
So just to rattle through their bowling lineup: Chris Woakes, Gus Atkinson, Shoaib Bashir, Jimmy Anderson, with a little bit of Joe Root off spin, and Ben Stokes in that bowling lineup. That's quite in English conditions in particular. That's a pretty good lineup, really. You could argue that it's a bit of a surprise to see Bashir in that lineup, but
yes,
we've got the pace of Gus Atkinson. You've got the consistency and just general annoyance from know-how from Chris Woakes.
And Chris Woakes' record at Lords is disgusting, by the way.
And then you've got James Anderson, who's just taken a 7th in his latest game. Ben Stokes apparently back to full fitness. That is a lot for the team to put up against. But Brathwaite has a decent record against England. He showed that he can kind of stand up, but it's going to take some of the others really putting innings together and getting used to actually playing at places like Lords and getting that opportunity. And if they win the toss, West Indies, surely they look to bowl first.
Yeah, well, I think based on how grey it's been for the last week, and wet, I'd imagine bowl first will be an option. It's always the thing with Lords, isn't it? The first hour or so is a nightmare batting wise. The ball's doing all sorts, but you have to take quick wickets, or you have to get a few wickets early, and if you don't, then it becomes quite nice to bat on. So it is a bit of a risk sometimes bowling first at Lords, but there is a lot in it for the bowlers to start with. But yeah, if you've got a slightly creaky upper order and you're coming into, someone with the know-how of Chris Woakes and Jimmy Anderson, albeit Chris Woakes hasn't had a lot of recent cricket with the red ball, and in his one county championship game this year, he got flayed around a bit. But also, it's Chris Woakes at Lords, so I think he'll be fine. So yeah, it would be a bold strategy to go and say, yeah, we'll have a bat, and then end up 20 for 5 in no time. So yeah, put England under a bit of pressure. See how they're feeling. Probably sensible. But this England lineup, you said they've named it. Obviously, Shoaib Bashir was the thing that you picked out as something that was a bit of a surprise. What did you make of it? I mean, obviously the batting is pretty much what we expected, right? And there wasn't any other option for the wicket keeping. So I suppose it is the bowling attack that's the only point of conversation really in this lineup.
Well, I think it's just again of obviously, Jamie Smith coming in as wicketkeeper batsman, starting in at number 7, replacing Ben Foakes and Johnny Bairstow in that. They're looking to the future, right? That's what Rob Key and Brendan McCullum are looking to do with Ben Stokes here. What I just find a little bit interesting is what is the longevity play for Bashir? Like he looked okay in India. I think he did reasonably okay. Did he set the world on fire? No. Is he someone who offers something with the bat? No. I think sometimes learning on the job, I think is what you talked about last time, Max, is just quite difficult to do in Test cricket. And when you've got someone like Jack Leach, who's now back fit, he's actually being picked as the Somerset main spinner, takes the ball away from the right-handers as well, which kind of, I think, statistically, something like 70% of batsmen are right-handed. You're kind of a bit like, is Jack Leach really the problem kind of in that space? And then if I was picking this team just to win this Test match as an individual, like the weather's been awful in England. Like it's been absolutely dreadful. It's literally raining outside right now, and
you don't want to see the forecast for the rest of the week either.
and it's that point of going, what are they really getting out of Shoaib Bashir here? Could they have just gone, do you know what, we're going to pick kind of another seamer in that space and do that, or even pick someone like Dan Lawrence to give you more of an opportunity to beat us up? We're extending the batting order because who knows what happens in these kind of conditions. So I think it's very much a team for 10 tests time rather than a Test match right now, would be my view.
Yes, I completely agree. And my concern with that is that largely the points that you've made, right? Essentially what they've done is they picked a bloke and said, you're going to play cricket for England for the next 12 games because we want you to play in Australia in the Ashes in 2025.
Because of that high release point.
Because of the high release point, of course. And maybe it'll prove to be complete genius. But what we've seen so far is he's gone to India, played some tests in India, done well, bowled nicely. Sure. He's, consolidated that by coming home and not playing for his county very much because the other spinner that England could have picked is ahead of him in the pecking order. So that's not ideal, is it? And then you're thinking, so, what's the play here? Like, are you just going to expect someone who's 20 odd years old who's not had a great deal of red ball cricket to just come and play 12 tests for England in random conditions in England and then maybe some in Pakistan, to then go to a test series in Australia and be the thing that means England win down under or be a large contributing factor? I don't know. It seems a little bit fanciful to me. I see the idea and I don't see like the structure behind it. If you get me, like, there needs to be something else, like some sort of pathway. I don't know, a spin camp, just like a concerted, vision of what you're going to do with these guys to improve them, to give them help them develop the skills they need to be successful in whatever you want them to do. If it's in, playing in Australia, and yes, maybe they're setting that up. Maybe it exists and I'm not aware of it. But as far as I can see, so far the plan is just pick a guy based on vibes, play him for a bit, and hopefully he'll be good enough when it comes to it. And if he isn't, if 10 test time it turns out that he's been absolutely awful, what do we do? I guess pick Jack Leach and hope that he's not injured. It's a
fanciful selection, isn't it? I think you're right, and I think if you look what they did with Rian Ahmed before. So Rian Ahmed was in the team, and they were just like, "Yep, we want you around." Obviously, the leg spinner sees himself as more as a batter than a bowler, but there was definitely something to work with there. And I think leg spin, you can kind of learn you have to learn on the job a little bit, right? You're not just amazing. You're not just a Shane Warne reincarnate, right, from that place. But I think if you're picking somebody who you want a decent off spinner in that space, like. I think fundamentally, do you really need one? that is a big question for me now. Like, do you really need to be blooding in an off spinner at this point in his career? He's only 20. And he took what I think it was 17, 18 wickets in India. Like it was effective, but there is surely no way the pitches are going to play at Lords or wherever else like they did in India. And I just think it's a bit of a surprise selection. And that's not to take anything away from Bashir. This is not saying that we don't like Bashir or anything like that. It's just you're there to win international games of cricket, and the West Indies should not be underestimated. England have a horrible kind of routine of underestimating West Indies cricket, and it will bite them if they don't prepare for this properly.
Yeah, I suppose the counter to that, to play devil's advocate, and maybe sort of consider some of the things that we might have alleged at England's selection policy in the past, is that they've gone for a guy based on his bowling, and they think he's the best option as that spinner, and they've decided to back him, which is a good thing because chopping and changing is something we've seen all too often. And they're not picking him because he can bat a bit, which is another thing that England can be very guilty of when it comes to picking their frontline spinner, right? We're only going to pick a guy if he can, average 20 at number 9, number 8, whatever. And obviously that's not a reason you should be picking someone, I guess, if you're trying to build a side, and maybe a side to win in conditions away from home. So there are things to sort of back, I suppose, things to support in what they're going for. But my huge fear is that they do this for however long, 18 months, and then we get to Australia, we get to wherever it is, the first test, and it's Leach J and Joe Root bowls 15 overs, and we're back to square one. But we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. So
on the other side, Max, we've got the James Anderson factor. So he's going to be playing his 188th Test match. I think it is. That is a staggering longevity, isn't it? 700 odd Test wickets. It is absolutely insane. I would like to see them open the batting with him. Second innings, like to give him an opportunity to hit some runs. If it doesn't happen, doesn't happen. Or maybe just hide him in the middle order. I don't think he deserves the bat.
When the ball's old, send him in over 60. Have a slash.
Yeah, I'd like to see something in that space happen. But it's I'm surprised they are saying retire now. I do see the point in bringing in other people, but bringing in other people is bringing in Chris Woakes at the moment. So it's kind of just a bit like
the future.
So there's a little bit of like, what are they truly doing here? So they've kind of picked enough to people to win the game, but they're kind of blooding in Gus Atkinson and Shoaib Bashir and Jamie Smith. So you're not expecting to see 5 or 6 new faces, but it is a little bit interesting, I think. And
the main disappointment for me, obviously, the element of, I think there's been a question of how much Jimmy's been able to have a say in it, but also, what is he, 8 wickets away from Shane Warne? Like, just give him the home summer, man. Like, or at least like two of the tests in the West Indies series, and 1 or 2 against Sri Lanka. Because with the greatest of respect, and by which I mean with no respect to the batting lineups of West Indies and Sri Lanka, in England, if Jimmy Anderson plays 3 games against them, he will take the wickets he needs to overtake Shane Warne, and that would be a nice thing for him to do. And England have it within their power to let him have that pointless milestone, but they've decided to take it away from him, and to me that's harsh and unfair. But never mind. Like I said, it's a pointless milestone. So I don't think Jimmy Anderson will be losing any sleep about where he is.
Fair enough. Shall we have a quick break and then come back with some predictions and cricket news?
Yes.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
We're back. And it is time to put our names on the line, our reputations on the line, as we always do, because we're going to make some predictions about where this England-West Indies series is going to go. Normally we do a snake draft, but there's only 2 of us today, so I think we'll just, I guess we can snake draft it as well. It should be me and then Ross and then Ross and then me, but not quite so. Not quite as difficult as usual. But I was thinking, Ross, that it does work better when there's three of us doing predictions, doesn't it?
It does.
So in Jack's absence, I thought maybe we could use a random number generator to generate his predictions for us. So I got a list of the players in the squads, and I'll just do the random number function in Excel, and each time I sort it, I'll pick whoever's on the top of the list. So yeah, there's every chance that Jack is going to be predicting Shah Bashir as the top run scorer of the series. But you know what? The guy's a nutter, so there's every chance he would have done it anyway. And
I think that is fair, Max.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we always want to hear your predictions, and we've got Patreon organised. So if you want access to the Discord and some other little benefits, and sign up patreon.com/cricket-pod. It's been brilliant over the World Cup, and we'll no doubt pick up now. Major League Cricket is on. The 100 is just around the corner. You've got the County Championship. T20 Blast is happening, and obviously the test matches. So if you want to get involved in the conversation and support the pod, then go to patreon.com/cricket-pod. And we're also sponsored by Serious Cricket. So if you live in the UK and you need some cricket equipment, then go to our affiliate link in the show notes and get yourself a little treat from them. Their stuff is brilliant. Predictions, Max. Where are we starting?
Yes. Right. Well, we've got on the list most runs, most wickets, player of the series. We'll go for a flop of the series because that's always fun. And the score line. So I'll let you go first, Ross. You can have most runs. Batter of the series. Who's going to score the most runs in this series?
So I'll give some a bit of logic as Jack's still here. So I think that the ball moving up front is going to be quite difficult. And I think that Zach Crawley might end up struggling a little bit. And I think opening up in this series in particular is going to be quite challenging. But this is Joe Root is going to be for me. I think this is the classic case where Joe Root refines some form that he's might have been has kind of escaped him a little bit. And I think I'll go for Root. Yep.
Some nice low-hanging fruit there. You've picked the best batter out of everyone in the series, so well done. Are you making a note of these, by the way? Because obviously,
yeah.
Good. Right, Joe Root for Ross. Yeah, I mean, I have to say similar sort of logic, but I think I might I'm going to look a place down in the order. I'm going to say Harry Brooks going to do it. It's a bit of a wild card, but same sort of logic. And Joe Root's gone, so. I'll go for someone else in the middle order. Would you like to see who Jack's gone for?
I would love it. Yep.
Yeah, he's gone for who's come out on top here? Chris Woakes.
He's gone for Chris Woakes. Nice.
Yeah, Jack's gone for Chris Woakes.
Nice, and that was taking into consideration the West Indies and England, I hope.
Yes, that is everyone. So it's close. He's just gone for Chris Woakes, but Josh De Silva wasn't far behind, so he's tried to make he's thinking about whether the West Indies might come and do something. Josh De Silva did actually do quite well against England in the series in the Caribbean last time, I do believe. So not a crazy pick, but Chris Woakes is definitely out there. It's going to be.
This might be better than actually having Jack on the podcast. Actually, maybe we just do this all the time. Maybe we put like a couple of of his phrases in. If we put if we put every single episode of the Cricket Pod into an AI machine,
Jack GPT,
and then had that and just press play, it'd be just I think that could work.
I reckon there's someone in the Patreon who's smart enough to do that for us. Based on what Alex was able to do with Excel in that fantasy cricket, I reckon he could have a stab. Right, next up is most wickets.
So Jack gets to go first on this one.
Jack does get to go first on this one. So just gonna
rerun what Ben Duckett bowls.
Yeah, rerun the random. Shall I? I mean, it's Zach Crawley.
Oh, nice.
But if you want to give him the highest scoring bowler, which might be fair, then he has gone for Shah Bashir.
Okay,
so Jack's gone for Shah Bashir as his most wickets pick. I kind of feel like going for a West Indian just because they're possibly more likely to be settled in terms of the side, right? They're
Yeah,
probably not going to change it as much.
Gus
Obviously,
Atkinson unlikely to play all 3 tests.
yeah, I reckon. I mean, they've been wrapping him in cotton wool in terms of what he's been allowed to do for Surrey quite a lot recently. So I'd question whether he plays all 3. Obviously, you're going to have Jimmy dropping out and probably Matthew Potts coming in for like the 2nd and 3rd test. So I'm going to go. Let's go for the mean pick. Let's go for Shamar Joseph. Why not?
Shamar, nice.
Yeah.
So what I find interesting is Chris Woakes being this. I think this is a farewell summer for Chris Woakes. I'm not sure he ends this summer without retiring. Would be my view. So again, they need a number 8 because their batters can't really, their bowlers can't really bat, can they? In England,
no. Gus Atkinson can bat a little bit, but not for a long time.
Chris Woakes has got kind of a Test match century or 2. So I think he's going to be. I'll be surprised if the chopper can change it, but it's really difficult to pick between Alzari Joseph, who I really, really like. He is an absolutely brilliant Test match bowler, and Chris Woakes, because I absolutely love Chris Woakes. So that's quite a difficult thing there. So I will go with I'll go with the West Indies. I'll go with the West Indies on this one. Right. I'll go with Alzari. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, fair enough. I think both. I toyed with Alzari. I think both would have been a good pick. I mean, at the end of the day, it's literally random, isn't it? So it's fine. Okay, player of the series, MVP. Obviously, it's a bit of bet hedging at this point, isn't it? It's quite difficult. But what are you going for?
How do we work this? This is our MVP.
Yeah, it's our MVP.
So if Ollie Pope hits 50, you're going to be like, oh my god, he's MVP because you bloody love Ollie Pope and you love Surrey. Yeah. So that's
no, it'll be Jamie Smith actually this time. I've moved on. I've moved on from Ollie Pope.
It's also interesting, like Jason Holder being back in this lineup. He's a couple of years older. He surely can't still be as good as Jason Holder used to be. Is kind of my thought process. But he will bat in bat at 6, bat at 7. Like that's that's plenty of time to hit some runs, and he's going to be causing some problems with the ball because he's about 11 feet tall. So the sheer weight of runs, the easy pick is someone like Joe Root, but I'm going to go Jason Holder, MVP for West Indies.
Nice. Well, I'm going to steal your backup pick for the bowlers. I'm going to go with Chris Woakes, player of the series. But parlour wickets and average like 25, 30 with the bat. It'll be, he'll dig England out of some tricky situations.
I thoroughly enjoy, Max, you didn't go for Ben Stokes in that space because the guy's bowling and he's batting above Chris Woakes in the lineup.
Yeah, nah. It's too easy, isn't it? Right, Jack. Should we go for the lowest? No, it's still best player in it. So we'll go for we go for the highest. We'll go for the lowest one when it comes to the flop. Jack's gone quite forcefully for Tevin Imlach. That's his pick for MVP.
Tevin Imlach, okay.
Yeah, the random number generator's come out with a number of almost 1 there. Bearing in mind it's between 0 and 1. 0.996847. Jack couldn't be more certain that Tevin Imlach is going to be MVP. So I'm looking forward to see that play out.
Flop.
And he gets to go first on the flop, doesn't he?
He does.
So we'll run it. We'll run it again. Isn't this fun? Isn't this?
But this is good because it's a very cricket podcast. We've got the data element to it. We've got a bit of technical stuff, bit of data going on, and pure vibes on the other side of things.
Yeah. Gus Atkinson is Jack's flop.
Okay.
Which could conceivably happen. Like, to be honest, these picks from random Jack here are actually about as good as our normal picks. So maybe we should do this for all of us for the future and see how it goes. Yeah, Gus Atkinson is Jack's flop. My flop, I hate to say it, I'm going to go with Ollie Pope.
Oh, you've taken mine. You've taken mine.
Yeah. I think I said it last time as well, and then he scored that ridiculous 196 against India in that ridiculous game of cricket. So hopefully me saying Ollie Pope will galvanise him once more.
And I think I need to kind of balance things out because I've got a Holder and Alzari with a bit of Joe Root. So I think I need to go for an England. Do I go for an England player there? Because kind of flop is a bad thing. So kind of do I go for a West Indies player? That is a question.
But obviously, you have to consider the weight of expectation, don't you? So
yeah, so you
can't be a bad player and play badly, and we can't then say, well, that was a flop, can we?
Yeah,
that's not how it works.
My question would be, Ben Stokes is a challenging one. Like, surely he'll be fine. Surely Ben Stokes will be fine. Ollie Pope would have been my choice, purely on the fact that I find it difficult that he's still in the England team. Zach Crawley has had an unbelievable couple of years since being pretty much given 40 Test matches to play in. As he's getting the Shoaib Bashir's getting the Zach Crawley treatment now. I think Ben Duckett might struggle. Is what I'm going to go with. Okay. So I've got that. That's pretty much the random number generator in my head.
Yeah,
so difficult to pick. So yeah, we'll go there. We please leave in the YouTube comments or message us on Twitter who you think your most runs are going to be: wickets, MVP, and flop. Max, who do we think is going to win the series? I'm guessing that's where we're going.
Well, you got to give me a score. So
I think West Indies will win one. Do I think they're going to win one? Just because of the England factor, I kind of think they will. I'll say 2. I reckon first game rained off. 2-0 England.
2-0 England. Okay, right. So I was thinking similar lines to you, right? That West Indies might win one. So I'm thinking one's going to get rained off, possibly this one, because the weather looks bad. And even if it's not this one, then there'll be rain. West Indies will win another one because it's going to rain, and Ben Stokes is going to do some baseball nonsense and let West Indies win, and then England will win a game that they should win. So 1-1. That's my call.
Nice. And what does Jack predict?
What does Jack predict? That's so I've just written down every possible permutation there for him, and he is going for what is he going for?
Realize I'm quite annoying on a podcast. Sorry.
He's going 3-0 England.
3-0 England. Wow.
Yeah. Fair enough.
There we go. Well, there's the predictions. So please send us yours in because it's quite nice trying to predict the future. And when you do it, you get the smugness, the Jeremy Clarkson kind of grinned teeth from top.
When you lose to Jack via a random number generator, on the other hand, it makes you question your life choices.
It does. Well, Max, massive test series. We're going to see if we can get a guest on or two, and we've put a couple of feelers out to kind of people like Joel Garner. So if we can get Joel Garner onto the show, I mean, that would be pretty spectacular. So watch this space on that front. In terms of cricket news, Max, Jaya Surya has been named interim head coach of Sri Lanka. So he's going to try and sort that mess out. Wasn't too long ago that Jaya Surya was involved in kind of match fixing and some dodgy stuff. So it's
about half of the course, really, isn't it, for tin pot organisations?
Was a bloody good cricketer though, so kind of pretty handy. Let's not worry about that stuff. Let's just focus on what's there. So we'll see what happens there. Major League Cricket, Max, that's started, hasn't it?
It has. There's been a couple of games. There was a squeaky bum win for Washington Freedom over Mumbai on Duckworth Lewis Stern, and the San Francisco Unicorns won rather more comfortably against the LA Knight Riders to get things underway. Some familiar faces all round, and doing the damage for San Francisco, Finn Allen and Matthew Short. There's some big names knocking around in this tournament this year. And they got some good people in before, but I'm just looking at the first two games, and it's kind of obscene, right? I mean, you had Andre Russell, David Miller, Sunil Narayan on the Knight Riders side, lining up against a team that had Finn Allen, Jake Fraser McGurk, Josh Inglis. So all international quality T20 players. So some good fun. to be had by all. Who
Yeah.
do you like? Who's your pick?
I really like just purely the fact that Night Riders are just quite fun, aren't they? Really, I mean, any team who's still picking Jason Roy is good in my book, right? As far as I'm concerned, and they're continuing the Sun on the Rhine opener part as well. He's not having as much success this time round. They've obviously still got Dre Russ in the lineup as well, so it's difficult not to like them because again you have that familiarity, right? Ultimately with it, but that's not to say that they're guaranteed winners. You can guess who Texas Super Kings have opening the batting. Correct if you said Faf du Plessis and Devon Conway. But they've got Stoinis in that side. Kurtzia is playing, and Naveen Hack also is around. So I think people can get excited and get a little bit more into this. If I was a West Indies fan, I'd be sitting there going, "Why is someone like Nicholas Pooran not playing Test match cricket?" I think the guy is absolutely brilliant, and yet he's playing for Washington Freedom or MI New York, whichever one he plays for.
Well, we
MI
all
New
know
York,
why, don't we? We all know why.
And he's playing with Tim David, Kieran Pollard, Trent Bolt, Rashid Khan, Norkia. Like there's more and more being attracted to the game, and obviously Cumdog's going to be turning up at some point soon as well. So I think Major League Cricket this year it's got a good opportunity. But I was looking at some of the pictures from one of the games, and at the main stadium after the World Cup, you'd think you'd get a bit of a crowd in.
No.
Nobody there.
That's a shame as well. Because like you're looking at these sides, and after the World Cup and after how well the USA did, you're now looking at this and being like, oh well, yeah, Netravalka, what a great player to have in your side for a T20 tournament. And Andres Goose. Like, well, yeah, he's handy. You know, you're looking at these names and thinking that they can actually do something. So from that point of view, yeah, it's a bit of a shame not to have more support, but maybe it'll pick up. We can but hope. But yeah, that Mumbai side is nonsense. How can they lose? That's ridiculous.
It's the Galacticos approach, isn't it?
But not necessarily a good team. An assortment of quality cricketers doesn't make a good team. Remains to be seen. But yeah, keep an eye out on Major League Cricket. It's a good laugh. San Francisco Unicorns have signed Pat Cummins for 4 years, is it? So they've got long-term plans. So let's hope.
That's a man who wants that's
a good pension,
shot,
isn't it?
Well, he wants his shot at Silicon Valley. That's what I'm seeing.
Or the presidency.
Pat Cummins, but I can see Pat Cummins just be like, and here's whatever phone he comes out with next, or some goggles, or I don't know, whatever.
That would kind of fit like the Pat Cummins narrative arc, wouldn't it? Like some sort of CEO of corporation, or president of the USA, governor of Texas. I don't know. One more bit of news.
We got to talk about the world champions, haven't we?
Yes. The one more bit of news. The world champions. They are playing a very important T20 series against Zimbabwe in Zimbabwe. And I guess the news is that they were briefly no longer world champions because they lost to Zimbabwe, which means world champions for a few days. Yeah.
So if you kill a king, isn't it? Like if you kill a king, you take the throne.
Yeah, regicide. Exactly. But India immediately hit back and
with some force. Well, with some force. Let's be in the first test match, in the first T20, India were bowled out for like 100, like against Zimbabwe, and they're not playing all of the superstars.
Yeah, and they were only chasing about 120.
Yeah, but this is also the part, like the superstars are retiring, right? And some of those superstars, people have been saying for years, these guys are declining. We need the next batch to come through. And in the first game, it all fell on its arse a little bit. But in the second game, Abhishek Sharma had something to say, didn't he, Max?
He did. Yeah, this is very much next gen India in Zimbabwe, captained by Shubman Gill. So he's the poster boy for the next gen. He's had 2 failures, but Abhishek Sharma in that second game, 100 off 47 balls, 8 sixes. That's very good, isn't it? And it's just kicking off from his season in the IPL with the Sunrisers, obviously. But he's one of the exciting talents that I think we want to see opening the batting for India in T20 cricket, just because he goes for it. The way he approaches the game, left-handed, bit of excitement. That was good. Gaikwad got involved as well. 77 off the same number of deliveries as Abhishek Sharma, 47. And then Rinku Singh came in and finished it off, doing his job. We didn't get to see much of Rinku Singh in the IPL this year because Sunil Narine went ballistic in an outcome that absolutely nobody could possibly have predicted. So Rinku Singh wasn't really needed to finish the innings at any point, but he came in here and he did the job. Yeah, 234 for 2. India racked up in their 20 overs. It's a pretty solid, pretty solid effort. And Zimbabwe obviously had no hope. But yeah, no sooner was the India renaissance off the rails, it's back on the rails again. So we're all good. They've done what they needed to do.
I think that might be cricket news, Max, and I think that might be the end of the show.
Is. Yes, always nice to bring back a cricket news segment, isn't it? But there we are. Yeah. Reminders as always: manscaped.com, 20% off with the code Cricket Pod, and Serious Cricket, as Ross mentioned at the top of this segment. Lovely guys and lovely gear. So get over there, and patreon.com/the Cricket Pod to get involved. Help us if you can. Get involved. Join the Patreon. Join the Discord. Chat. It's popping. It's always popping. It never stops. The Euros. We've been on about the Euros now. That we talk about football as well.
Yeah.
All sorts of
because
stuff.
England failed to win one World Cup or one tournament, so we're going for a different one. We're going for the Euros now.
Yeah, we're going for secondary disappointment,
which we're going to win on super overs. If you need to,
we're going to hit on the countback of the number of times England have hit the post, which will require them to hit the post quite a lot in the final and the semi-final. I think if they're going to have any hope. But yes, thank you for being here, Ross. Always a pleasure. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we will catch you next time. Probably a review of one of the day's play of England West Indies. So stay tuned for that. See you later.